Road runs through jungle and along mountain barriers from the coastal plain below Hue to the hills of Laos below Quezon, and signals an escalation in the scale of the awaited battle for the cities and bases below the demilitarized zone. At Quezon itself, the communists have tunneled to within 100 yards of the base perimeter. They mounted propaganda loudspeakers at the wire and aimed them at a battalion of South Vietnamese Rangers. The tough government troops blew them up with mortars. Over the weekend, the communists poured more than 500 rounds of mortar and rocket fire into the Quezon area and other targets along the DMZ, and blew up tons of ammunition and fuel at the vital forward supply point of Qua Viet, just south of the Leatherneck Square. Marine Lieutenant General Robert Cushman, commander of the DMZ defense line, calls the fight a titanic struggle of firepower. He told Newsman today, "I don't think the enemy can take Quezon." Former Republican Vice President Richard Nixon is predicting an overwhelming vote in tomorrow's New Hampshire presidential primary. Nixon told some 200 people in Nashua, "I'm in it to the finish. Tomorrow is the beginning, and we're going to finish it in November when we beat Lyndon Johnson." Meanwhile, Senator Eugene McCarthy has accused backers of President Johnson in New Hampshire of distorting his position on draft dodgers. The Minnesota Democrat told a Manchester News conference that those heading a write-in campaign for the president are attacking the motives and loyalty of any man who dares run in an election against the president. And on those notes, the New Hampshire primary draws to a close. Group W correspondent Gene Pell has a look in this report from Manchester.
Eugene McCarthy officially ended his campaigning in New Hampshire with a warm expression of thanks to his supporters and workers and a plea that they continue right up until the polls close Tuesday night. The Minnesota senator's final remarks were made to some 300 people at a reception in Manchester.
Having said that, I appreciate what you've done to ask you in what remains of this campaign, just today and Monday and Tuesday, to continue your efforts, because I think that we are making a record in this state which could very well influence the course of American policy and the course of American history. Thank you very much.
McCarthy later said that if he receives 25% of the vote here, it will be a significant figure. Most observers expect he will do better than that. On the Republican side of the ticket, former Vice President Richard Nixon is holding a reception in Nashua this evening. Tomorrow, Nixon will end his New Hampshire campaign with a 5-city tour of headquarters buildings. Nixon is the only major figure in the Republican primary since George Romney's pullout 2 weeks ago. A write-in campaign is being conducted for Nelson Rockefeller, but it is not expected to result in a significant vote for the New York governor. Gene Pell, Manchester, New Hampshire.
KFWB News Time, 5:06. There'll be a significant runoff election tomorrow in Mississippi. Details from Group W correspondent Jim Slade in the southern state.
Polls here point to Charles Griffin, the Mississippi Young Democrats who pledged support to Charles Evers in this race for the congressional seat formerly held by Mississippi's Governor John Bell Williams. Pollsters say Griffin, Williams' aide for 18 years in Congress, will walk away with the runoff tomorrow by a wide margin. Griffin says he has the experience and can step into the office tomorrow if necessary. He's a white conservative, describing himself as a Mississippi Democrat. He's been sharply critical of the Johnson administration. Evers is the brother of Medgar Evers, slain at his home in 1963 here in Jackson. After that killing, Charles Evers stepped into his brother's post as secretary of the NAACP, coming here from Chicago. Evers says if elected, he'll work without bias and not, quote, go to Washington to preach hatred of black and white, as he says others from Mississippi have done. Anyway, the Mississippi polls open tomorrow at 7 a.m. From Jackson, Mississippi, this is Jim Slade.
KFWB News Time, 5:07. The Los Angeles temperature is 69 degrees.
Newsmen are a dedicated lot. They live and breathe news. Like good cops, they're always on duty, watching for a story, seeing how one news event affects another, and how they all affect you and your family. We've spent months gathering a team of dedicated newsmen for KFWB News Radio. We've given them the tools with which to work. The result? A 24-hour news service. A news service you can depend on. One that never sleeps. That's in business to get the story first and get it right. We hope you'll come to depend on KFWB News Radio for news the minute you want it. After all, that's why we're here.
The official weather for the Los Angeles region, variable high cloudiness tonight through Wednesday, but considerable sunshine tomorrow at 69 degrees at Civic Center, going down to about 50 degrees.
It happens too often. And sometimes the cause is a disabled car stopped on the roadway. People who drive a lot, like professional truck drivers, know that at the first sign of trouble, you should pull off the road, way off. Don't wait. The risks are too great.
A public service of KFWB and the California Trucking Association. This is KFWB, all news all the time. I'm Beach Rogers. There's sad news this evening from Montgomery, Alabama, where Governor Lurleen Wallace is apparently beginning a battle for her life against cancer. Doctors report she suffered a setback in her recovery from a cancer operation and has an increased fever caused by an abdominal infection. A spokesman for the State House tells KFWB News,
"The convalescence of Governor Lurleen B. Wallace has been interrupted by an increase in fever caused by inter-abdominal infection. Doctors express concern about this complication, which is being treated with large doses of antibiotics. The governor continues to have cramping abdominal pains, which has interfered with her return to oral diet."
The complication apparently developed during the weekend. Mrs. Wallace underwent surgery February 22nd for removal of a malignant pelvic tumor the size of a pecan and a 10-inch section of bowel that had been damaged by radiation treatments. It was her third cancer operation in just over 2 years. The Sisters of the Immaculate Heart and Order of Roman Catholic Nuns says they will take their efforts to modernize their order to Pope Paul VI. The group has been stymied in its efforts to change its mode of dress and religious practices by James Francis Cardinal McIntyre, Archbishop of Los Angeles. The 500-member order made the decision yesterday at a meeting in Los Angeles. A spokesman for the group, Sister Lenore Navarro, says reports that a leader of the liberal element, Sister Anita Caspary, had resigned and that a majority of the group were considering founding a lay group were false. But Sister Lenore says the possibility of a lay group has been talked over informally. The order will meet again after Pope Paul makes a decision on their petition. The group teaches in parochial schools throughout Southern California. The Mia Farrow-Frank Sinatra separation continued in separate penthouses in Miami over the weekend. But the separate visit between the estranged couple has ended, and Mia has apparently left the resort to fly to New York and then on to London, where she is making a film. Miss Farrow flew to Miami from London via New York early Saturday and checked in immediately at the Fontainebleau Hotel, where Sinatra is headquartered for a 6-week stand. Neither the singer nor the actress had anything to say publicly during the weekend. Miss Farrow's mother checked out of the hotel with her daughter. Maureen O'Sullivan joined her daughter Saturday. Since the couple's breakup several months ago, Sinatra has suffered pneumonia and was ordered to bed in Miami, and Mia has consulted with a guru in the Himalayas. KFWB News Time, 5:12. You don't have to be afraid of the midnight skulkers. Those are Grunion hunters if you happen to be a beach hound, and they aren't like snipe hunters at all. Big beach doings, according to KFWB newsman Andy Park, who has details of mysterious Southern California happenings.
The skeptic comes to Southern California and finds out it really is true. There are swimming pools galore. Psychedelic bagel shops do inhabit the Fairfax district, and the 4-level freeway interchange during rush hour certainly makes believers out of atheists. But even many hardy natives rebel at the prospect of having to believe in that great springtime romantic outing, the Grunion Run. They think it's better to be sent for a key to the pitcher's box or even on a snipe hunt. The tiny silvery fish really do exist, it says here, and their annual outings are about to begin again. By the light of the moon next Saturday night, at 10:18 p.m. to be exact, all manner of gaily garbed Californians will begin the quest for the Grunion. Some, with their love by the hand, will forget why they went to the beach in the first place. Others, with their trousers rolled up to the knees, will pursue with very serious intent. A Newport Beach group, for instance, is already formed to attempt to be the first ever to run with the Grunion on surfboards. So for 4 nights, starting Saturday, the Grunion will run with the tide. When they run, the time and tide tables will tell us exactly. But where they seek their spawning grounds on the beach, that's the secret as elusive as the location of the Lost Dutchman mine. The California Fish and Game Department, in keeping with the inconsistency so native to our state, require that all those over 16 have a valid fishing license to hunt the Grunion. Even though, mind you, that hooks, baskets, buckets, nets, and other assorted angling paraphernalia are not even used. You use your hands, Isaac Walton, that's all. Should you catch the Grunion, and should you care, along with the mess of his brothers, you clean them, roll them in flour and cornmeal, and then deep fry them. If you're really serious about the whole thing, that is. But the important thing is to observe the rites of spring. When the teenagers come home a little later than curfew next weekend with sand in their high heels and stars in their eyes, and when they reply, "We were just Grunion hunting," to a stern parental inquiry, well, just cool it. Don't get upset if they bring home no Grunion for proof. After all, it wasn't too long ago when their grandparents tried to sell the same kind of a tale. Something about a horse throwing a shoe and having to pull the surrey all the way home by hand. But the real important thing to remember, if you're new to this game, is not to get caught by your own kids when you decide to go Grunion hunting yourself. This is Andy Park in search of a fish story for KFWB News Radio.
Fair enough, Andy. I'll meet you on the beach, and don't bother looking for me. I'll look for you when the moon is full. KFWB News Time, 5:15. The Los Angeles temperature, 69 degrees. The weather for Los Angeles region, variable high cloudiness tonight through Wednesday, but considerable sunshine tomorrow. It's 69 degrees at Civic Center, going down to about 50. In sports, the Houston Mavericks of the ABA have confirmed that they drafted Elvin Hayes of the University of Houston in a secret meeting. The Mavericks are expected to bid as high as $250,000 to get Hayes. In NAIA basketball tournament in Kansas City, these are the finals. New Haven of Connecticut knocked off Alabama State 69-68. Monmouth 102, Bishop 91, and Alcorn A&M 79, Henderson State 71. Minnesota North Star goalie Cesar Minago suffered a broken jaw when struck by a puck in yesterday's game with Philadelphia, but doctors say he may be available for the Stars' next game on Wednesday. In exhibition baseball, St. Louis topped Boston 6-5 in 10 innings. Los Angeles had an easy time with the Chicago White Sox 7-2. Of course, that's the Dodgers. Detroit knocked off Philadelphia 9-5. Cincinnati overwhelmed Pittsburgh 11-7. And by an identical score, 11-7, the Senators defeated the Yankees. Group W sports correspondent Leonard Schechter has more on spring training.
You can tell the kind of manager Gil Hodges of the Mets is. The other day, a kid outfielder named Don Wilkinson went back to the fence on a fly ball and watched in horror as it dropped maybe 60 feet in front of him. It was a play in the great tradition of the Mets. Commented Hodges, "It was my fault for using him on a day like this. The wind was just awful." Now, this kind of kindness is supposed to make a player so grateful to his manager, he will go out next time and lay down his life. Well, I'm not so sure that's enough. Maybe your life counts something in a game like football or hockey, where you have a decent chance of losing it. But in baseball, well, I don't know. The most successful manager of them all, both at losing and winning, had some entirely different thoughts on the matter. His name was Casey Stengel, of course, and what he did was tell the truth about his ball players, most of the time anyway. Sort of a threat. If you don't lie about me, I won't tell the truth about you. As a result, Stengel administered some marvelous deals, particularly when he was with the Yankees. Of Jerry Lumpy, the second baseman, he once said, "He looks like the greatest player in the world until you play him." Of Bobby Richardson, the religious second baseman, he once said, "Look at him. He don't drink, he don't smoke, he don't chase, he don't stay out late, and he still can't hit." And of Lou Scaron, the muscular but brittle first baseman who, when in a slump, hit into a double play almost every time up, Stengel said, "The way he's playing, I'd be better off if he was hurt." I don't know which method produces a better ball club, because Stengel won and Stengel lost. And he could build up bad ball players with the best of them. But one thing was certain. Casey Stengel never kidded himself. This is Leonard Schechter.
KFWB News Time, 5:18.
A news radio is any radio tuned to KFWB, standing by to bring you up to date with the fast-breaking news of the world and the West. Does your home have a news radio? It should. Set one of your home radios to 98 KFWB for news the minute you want it.
This is KFWB, the news center on your radio dial, with news the minute you want it. I'm Beach Rogers with Fred Ferrer at the editor's desk. These are the big stories right now. Senate critics of the Johnson administration policy on Vietnam have intensively questioned Secretary of State Dean Rusk. The case of a brave Marine who is also a conscientious objector comes from Da Nang, South Vietnam. By a vote of 71-20, the Senate has passed a compromise civil rights housing bill and sent it on to the House. Troubles plaguing a half-dozen predominantly Negro and Mexican-American high schools increased today. 12 students were arrested. Continuing with details. Troubles plaguing a half-dozen predominantly Negro and Mexican-American high schools in Los Angeles mounted today, with one school closed by stay-at-home teachers. About 2,000 students at Jefferson High School were sent home when a majority of their teachers failed to report for classes. The teachers met at the headquarters of the California Teachers Association to discuss conditions under which they would return to school. Meanwhile, the City Board of Education moved to meet with student leaders from Roosevelt, Woodrow Wilson, Lincoln, Garfield, and Belmont high schools to discuss their complaints. KFWB newsman Bill Schubert has a report on one of those boycott situations in this report from Lincoln High School.
Nearly 200 Lincoln High School students held a rally this noon on the steps of the school's administration building to protest last week's walkout by students demanding reforms on this primarily Mexican-American campus. Leaders at today's Lincoln High rally told a divided audience of supporters and critics that most of the students aren't even familiar with the proposals initiated by outside agitators. Student body president Leonard Gomez was more specific on who's behind the walkouts.
Now, all of you know that there's a lot of outside agitation. And if there was a student movement, how can we have these outside people there? They were passing out eggs. They wanted to do it at Lincoln. They told them no. They did it at Roosevelt. I have friends that saw it. They did it at Garfield. I have friends that saw it. I saw them with the eggs here. I've seen the people. I know what kind of people they are. This thing has been in the preliminary stages since last summer. I know this for a fact. There have been major instigators behind this. People who are professional agitators. They've been to Selma. They've been to Chicago. They've been to Detroit. And I know this for a fact. Now, one of these agitators has studied under Sal Helensky, a noted communist. He makes no denial of this fact.
Student body president Leonard Gomez addressing a rally at Lincoln High in Los Angeles today, protesting last week's walkouts by about 1/4 of the student body as not representing the majority of those who attend classes here. Similar rallies were scheduled simultaneously at Wilson, Garfield, and Roosevelt. Despite warnings by school officials that further boycotts will not be tolerated, almost 1/3 of this student body did not show up for classes today. From Lincoln High in northeast Los Angeles, Bill Schubert, KFWB News.
KFWB News time, 5:21. Following a morning meeting of Jefferson teachers, Robert Unruh, past president of the Teachers Negotiating Council, warned the district is in what he called a critical condition. Unruh also warned the district may disintegrate if improvements are not made. Jefferson High held no classes for the second straight day today as the faculty met for a discussion of conditions at the predominantly Negro school. They issued an 11-page report following their meeting calling for smaller classes, more counselors, more bilingual teachers, instruction in Mexican-American history, and improved cafeteria services throughout the district. The teachers also agreed to attend classes tomorrow and asked for a Negro principal for Jefferson. The first candidate for the California Democratic nomination to the U.S. Senate has formally entered the race today. He will seek the seat now being held by Republican Senator Tom Kiko. KFWB newsman Jim Anderson has a look at the candidate in Sacramento.
Anthony Bielenson of Beverly Hills, who announced officially today that he will run for the U.S. Senate, is best known in the state for his abortion reform bill. He's a young Beverly Hills lawyer, 36 years old, with a Harvard and Eastern prep school background. He's a McCarthy liberal, a Eugene McCarthy follower, not Joe McCarthy. John F. Kennedy remains his idol. Bielenson was voted the best all-around state senator by the Capitol Press Corps in his first term. He is dynamic and knows his way around the internal machinery of the state Democratic Party. He expects to get the endorsement of the California Democratic Council, which will give him a ready-made group of campaign workers and doorbell ringers. Bielenson is also a dove on Vietnam, and he thinks that we should stop the bombing of North Vietnam. This is how he put it at Sacramento today.
This is the first time they said they will negotiate if we stop the bombing. The Secretary General of the UN and the Pope and the French and a number of our allies have told us that they think that it is true that they will negotiate if we stop. I think the risks involved are so slight and the possibilities for good coming from it are so great that we really risk nothing by stopping the bombing at this point.
Bielenson represents in California the sort of thinking that is best reflected nationally by Senator Robert Kennedy of New York. Bielenson wants to join Kennedy in the Senate to bolster the liberal wing of the party. This is Jim Anderson reporting from Sacramento.
KFWB News time, 5:23. Looking on Wall Street, the closing Dow Jones stock averages 30 industrials up 7.74 at 842.98, 20 rails up 3.45, 15 utilities up 0.10, and 65 stocks up 2.97. KFWB brings you important financial news as it happens with regular reports on Wall Street every half hour, every business day. With more in business and financial news, here is KFWB newsman Hal Goodwin.
A ration of favorable news developments cheered stock market investors today, and they marked prices higher on increased activity. News from the central bankers meeting at Basel that the $35 price for gold will be supported was credited with the early upswing. Later, a statement by Secretary of State Dean Rusk that the U.S. is offering to stop bombing in North Vietnam to get peace talks going gave further encouragement. Rumors of imminent settlement of the long drawn-out and hurtful copper strike also aided sentiment, although there was no word from the talks taking place at the White House. The 8-month strike has hurt not only the industry, but has adversely affected the U.S. balance of payments. Gold mining shares were in the spotlight, dropping sharply at first on the news from Basel, then regaining some ground when continued speculation in some European markets seemed to indicate not everyone is convinced the gold price will hold. Hal Goodwin, KFWB News Radio.
KFWB News Time, 5:25. The Los Angeles temperature is 69 degrees.
The curiosity of a little child wanders and spills over like water in a mountain stream after the first spring thaw, fresh, excited, and unpredictable. A child doesn't know what danger is until it strikes, and then it's too late. The National Safety Council reminds you that what is harmless and safe for an adult may be deadly to a child. Take the bathroom medicine cabinet, for example. It contains a great variety of useful, needed things for mom and dad. For the curious child, it contains poisonous liquids and solids. Throw out all unlabeled and unused prescriptions. That cuts down the chance a curious child may accidentally consume a poison. If you do keep poisons in a medicine cabinet, safety experts advise you to keep a lock on it. Don't take chances with a child's curiosity. It's a deadly game.
KFWB News Time, 5:26. The weather for Los Angeles and vicinity, variable high cloudiness tonight through Wednesday, but considerable sunshine tomorrow at 69 degrees at Civic Center, going down to about 50. This is KFWB, all news, all the time. I'm Beach Rogers. Britain's legendary London Bridge is up for sale in the United States. A salesman insists it is not falling down and would be a sound buy at $2.5 to $3 million. London councillor Ivan Luckin makes his sales pitch to reporters at a news conference. Says bids on the 140-year-old structure which spans the Thames River will be accepted until March 29th. Proceeds, he said, will be used to defray part of the $11 million cost of building a new 6-lane bridge across the river. Luckin says it was decided to sell the bridge abroad to get a better price. Why sell it abroad? Luckin says simply, frankly, old boy, we don't have all that much money these days. Actually, the granite facing of the bridge is what's up for sale. Luckin and Harold King, the London city engineer, say it would cost about $3 million to face a bridge with similar stone. They say the bridge is in good condition and is not falling down. King admits, however, the bridge would be in about 40 or 50 years. She's sinking about 1/8 of an inch every year, he says. The London officials say 45 bids for the bridge have been received. 35 of them have come from the United States. There have been other inquiries from Spain, France, Switzerland, Australia, and Korea. King says he feels there would be no damage to British pride in selling the bridge. These days, I don't regard different countries and nationalities as such. The world is too small, he said. We're all part of the same community. KFWB News Time, 5:28. Hog growers in Union City, Indiana, slaughtered nearly 100 hogs today to protest low prices they receive for pork. 60 growers, members of the National Farmers Organization, contributed 1 or 2 hogs each to the protest demonstration. About 300 persons watched the spectacle. The hogs were unloaded from pickup trucks and herded into a pit. The animals were killed with a Winchester rifle. They were slaughtered on the farm of Tax Spangler. Speaking for the hog growers, Spangler said, "We are not going to continue to contribute farm products until we get a fair price." Los Angeles District Attorney Evel Younger has announced his candidacy for re-election in the June 4th primary. Younger says he wants to continue serving the people of Los Angeles County in the enforcement of law and the administration of justice. Younger is a 28-year veteran of law enforcement. He previously served as a Superior Court judge, a municipal court judge, Pasadena City prosecutor, Los Angeles deputy city attorney, and an FBI agent. 24-year-old Etienne Grenapine of Nantes, France, a music lover, set sail in his 6.4-meter boat today for the Bahamas or Bermuda, wherever he happens to land. He took with him a tape recorder and a stock of classical music and batteries. To listen to music in the silence of the sea, what he called his greatest pleasure. He hopes to arrive somewhere in about 45 days. Complete weather for the Los Angeles region coming up.
Between Ellen and Jill came Paul, the fox. It was hailed in an unprecedented 5-page tribute in Playboy magazine. The Fox, symbol of the male, starring Sandy Dennis, Keir Dullea, and Anne Haywood. From Claridge Pictures in color.
See the Golden Globe Award winner, The Fox, now showing exclusively at Lowe's Crest Theater in Westwood.
This is KFWB Group W, Westinghouse Broadcasting for Los Angeles and Southern California.
The weather for the Los Angeles region, variable high cloudiness tonight through Wednesday, but considerable sunshine tomorrow. Coastal low clouds or fog tomorrow night and early Wednesday, with cooler temperatures on Wednesday, and it'll be smog-free in the basin tomorrow. It's 68 degrees at Burbank, 67 at